I'm keeping this ready to pounce. And here we go. I've bumped right into a problem here. The enemy has got strong position. They've just got enough rockets to destroy my heavy tanks, so I've got to watch it, and I fell back straight away.
Battle control initialized.
Hello there, comrades and cannon fodder. It's Dvoid here. I've got a 1v1 multiplayer game, and this time we're on Territorial map. Both players are using Russia. I'm using green because my opponent's kind of an orangey-reddy colour. So I decided to go for my secondary green colour for this one, but we're both using Russia. Territorial map. It's an RAGL 13 map, so it's a fairly recent one, and it's a map. I've not used it a lot of times myself, once or twice. I've had a few games on it, like, but I've had a few games on it today because I want to practice and learn how to use a few of the RAGL 13 maps because they're new, they're good maps, and good players will know how to play on them because it's, you know, an RAGL 13 map. A lot of players use them. So it's worth learning to use these maps, and like I say, they are good and new maps, so it's always worth having a look. We've got the first engagement, and my opponent's rifle fired first. He's killed my rifleman. He fired at the barrels point blank. Now, we've got a couple of riflemen here, and my riflemen are closer, but I'm moving the engineer, and I've told him to move away, and it's gone back, and the barrels blew up and killed him. So, what I was laughing about the other day, when an opponent of mine did that, I've just done the same thing by being, you know, impatient. I should have just left my engineer over there, destroyed the barrels, then done it. A couple of seconds, but yeah. That's the first time I've done that, detonated my own engineer with a barrel when I'm not under any pressure or anything, and there's a second engineer I've trained, so that's wasted 400 credits. I haven't even got any captures for it, but he's run straight into the enemy. I went this way and down, and my second engineer's killed, so that's 800 credits worth of engineers wasted. My opponent, there's their engineer, quite happy, but I've at least secured this area. And I'm wondering where my opponent's rifles are. And there you go, look, we've got a bit of an engagement here. I've killed the rifleman, so my opponent's engineer's moving away. So I've denied the pillbox to them. I mean, sorry, not the pillbox. I've denied the oil derrick. Although, here we are, look. And I've got my rifles. I'm attempting to sneak around and find this engineer, but no. This last rifleman's had it. Now I've got my war factory. Let's see what my opponent's up to. Same thing. They've got a flak truck for their scout vehicle. And now my opponent is capturing their oil derrick. There are only 2 on this map. And I've got my scout vehicle, and I thought, right, I'm actually, I've just trained a rocket soldier there. And I've only got 3 luck. And we're past 3 minutes, but I'm actually training an engineer. This is my 3rd, and I'm going to escort him I'm going to put him inside the APC and transport him safely. So I'm not going to lose a 3rd one for nothing. You know, if my opponent gets the 3rd one, then they'll have to put in some effort. But look, they are hunting with flak trucks, so we'll see. And they're bringing a few rifles along. Now, this APC will rule any engagement against those because its armour will bounce all this weaponry. And here we are. I've got my 3rd engineer, and I've noticed that flak trucks are open fire. And I've got to use my APC for view range, and my opponent hasn't got view range on these units. So I've surrounded my engineer with infantry just to try and protect him. Now, I've put it inside the APC safely. So we've got 1 oil derrick each, finally. Oh, maybe my rifleman caught the enemy engineer as it moved back this way. Let me just see if... Yeah, I've got an engineer, my opponent hasn't. So, yeah, my rifleman that I moved down here, the enemy engineer obviously wandered into it. And I've caught these flak trucks, look. These rifles are escaping. But this flak truck, I've got these infantry, and I knew I'd catch it out. Even riflemen would destroy that before it could get past. No problem there. So I thought, right, I've had a bad start when it comes to engineers, but everything else is, you know, it's going okay. I've got my second MCV there, and I've chosen to expand here so that this is a closed patch of ore I can get mining quickly, but I've also decided to try and protect the oil derrick as well. That's why I'm expanding here first rather than here, where the main patch is. Yeah, my opponent's securing the main expansion. It's a wise choice. They've got a heavy tank. I've got one heavy tank and I've got my APC. Yeah, my opponent's got a few units keeping an eye on the oil derrick, and there's my opponent's first expansion. Mine is about to be placed, my 4th refinery. And I've mined most of my ore at the main patch here. You see, I've got riflemen around the ore field in case, here as well, in case the enemy use an APC or anything like or an eco raid with tanks, and these riflemen will warn me. If they could send an APC with 5 rocket soldiers in and they trash your ore trucks if you're not careful. Now, there's my APC. It's got my engineer in it, so I'm trying to keep him safe. And this is only a small force, but I've found the enemy here. Let's see it in army values, 12,000 each. And my opponent's backing away, and I've got this barracks, my construction yard. It's a reasonably, it's a reasonably decent force there. Now I've got 2 heavy tanks. It's better. And the APC, it's a good screening unit, but I'm keeping that out of harm's way because it's got my engineer inside. I'm keeping this ready to pounce. And here we go. I've bumped right into a problem here. The enemy has got strong position. They've just got enough rockets to destroy my heavy tanks, so I've got to watch it. And I fell back straight away because I knew that's a bad idea, attacking into that. Look, the whole army's here. So now I'm at 12,000 army value, my opponent's at 11, but they've attacked into my structures. That's a mistake. And my base defences and infantry are they're going to slice through this. And now I've got 2 tanks with me, they're doomed. And now they've got no tanks, they have to retreat. But at least he saved most of his infantry from that attack. So that's good. And my opponent is harvesting this ore. So they have won the engagement here. This clash... They've probably killed more of my units, but even though they've lost plenty, and they've only got 7,000 army value, I'm at 14,000 now, they are actually, at least they're mining here. That's the important thing. But I've got infantry producing here, so it is also going to cause some hassle for the enemy. And here we go, I've moved my army and switched positions, and they're clearing the way for my next expansion. Look, these infantry have found some enemy units. But they know I'm here, over here. They know that because they've seen that I've sent that force packing. So that's why they've pulled these units back. They're expecting me to attack. But I can't just attack here because I'll face everything they've got. So I need to avoid this and attack somewhere else. Round here, say. And look what my opponent, they can see. They still think there's a construction yard there. And I moved it. And there you go. Their scouts have found me. But yeah, they see, there's an example that the enemy can see my construction yard, but until they uncover it, look, it's not actually there anymore. And I'm trying to avoid this, because if they see that, they'll know where my army is, and they'll be able to attack. But now they're focusing resources here, look. And let's see what they reveal. See, now it's gone. And I've got very few units. This is a decoy. They can have that. They were already mining, they'd already won it. They've already won, but they're still fighting for it, even though they've already won here. So now my army is moving round, and I'm gathering a decent force to stop the enemy when they finally reach my forces with this army. So I have lost a few barracks there. Look, I've only got 4 now. That's a problem. But I'm attacking here, keeping my APC out of trouble, moving straight in. I've got 4 heavy tanks there, so, you know... Lost their MCV, look, and I'm moving straight up for the Tesla coil, and my APC, I'm going to drop off the engineer and capture this refinery, and push on with these troops. Now my opponent, instead of attacking, is moving back, and they're bumped into base defences here, so I know they're trying to move through the middle, but I've got a capture on their refinery and their expansion, And now I've seen units coming, but I'm falling back. And now I've seen that there's nothing there, I'm attacking again. I've captured that refinery, and I'm putting the engineer back in the APC. Now my opponent has got no attacks against me, and I've got a decent little force here, look. But now I've seen the enemy's forces, and I'm backing away. I've got to leg it. Now I've sold that refinery, so I know it sounds strange because my opponent hasn't attacked it yet, but they've got a radar dome, and there I've seen it, and I don't want them using spies or thieves or anything like that. Now I'm capturing this oil derrick, but I've also got to fall back. My opponent's got a decent army attacking, and I was expecting them here, look. But I saw, because of this amazingly brilliant base defence that I placed earlier, I've seen the enemy coming, so I can attack with a pincer assault. There's my engineer. He's after the APC, and he might get killed. Yes, they've got my engineer. I had my hands full. But here we go, look. I'm using the view range of my structure, and I need rid of those tanks, but I know I've got that. No problem. My opponent's still chasing ore trucks. So yeah, they were doomed, and I've got my own radar dome now, and my refinery survived. But now I've got these ore trucks, they're idle, but I've got a wreck there. There's a destroyed heavy tank, and now that's blocking my refinery. And now I'm at 17,000 army value, my opponent's at 9 after that. They lost a full army, lost it. And here we go, I've got an attack on, and my opponent are starting to build V2s. And they're expanding fairly well. I need a new expansion, as you can see. Here's my build radius. There's a little bit of overlap. That's a waste. And I'm lucky I held on to that expansion, because it'll allow me to continue earning. You see, my ore trucks are blocked. They can't drop off their supplies. So I'm telling them to harvest, but that wreck will burn away eventually, so there you go, now it's free. You can target wrecks and destroy them, but with my oil refinery being damaged, sometimes you have to be careful what you fire at. You can destroy your own refinery. But if you are that bothered, you can target and force fire a wreck to get rid of it. There's a nice V2 shot. Look, they just haven't got enough. I've got, look, 4 heavy tanks there, and a decent force of infantry with some veteran units. Not bad though, these V2 strikes. My opponent's doing well, and I've got this force escorting my MCV, and I'm going for a base push. I've got an airfield, and I'm destroying their war factory. They've got no more infantry, no more vehicle production now, and I'm looking and seeing that my opponent's got a decent force, but no tanks, so I'm just going to press on. And this eco raid here, I see that I'm losing units. That's not good. Now, I've destroyed an ore truck. I've destroyed 2 of their ore trucks. Very nice. But I have to fall back here, get my base defences, and call more troops. Now, I've got an engineer and thieves there, but this force has overrun the enemy. I'm targeting their power supply now, and my opponent's rushing back. So, very soon, I'm going to have a decent force here, and I know it. And they're losing ore trucks everywhere. Shedding units. They've lost their service depot. And look, they haven't got vehicles, so this force can actually take on these guys piecemeal. And here's my attack. I'm using the tanks to distract them. I'll pause it one moment, excuse me. My opponent's got 8,000 credits, 8,700. I've got 1,200, so I'm very short on credits. But at this point, I've got the enemy distracted and destroying these piecemeal, because I've got very few infantry, but at least there's tanks with them. But I've got 2 thieves about to infiltrate now. 8, 4, 2. So I took a lot of cash. Now I'm at 8,000 and my opponent's at 2.5. I'm at 9,000. So there you go. I backed off because that attack was just a distraction to get my thieves in. My opponent has destroyed this army, but you know, it doesn't matter. Someone used move command. I don't know who they were referring to, but let's just see. You see, I've got a nice bit of cash now. I've got 12,000 army value, my opponent's at 4,000, and I know I could still ruin it and mess it up at this point, but I've done a nice bit of damage. My opponent's got a war factory. Very nice. Let's check the power situation. They've done so, they've only just in power mode, but look, here we go. I've got my 4 tanks up front, and yeah, Tesla coils are scary, and I'm capturing the ore refinery here. My opponent's attacking from there, very good, but look at those base defences and a few rifles, all I need to reinforce that. So there we go, I've got a capture, and there are 2 engineers capturing, so if my opponent didn't kill it anyway, but what does it matter? Now I've captured that, And there's a V2. And that's it. They're gutted. I've literally gutted them, and now there's another capture on the refinery. There you go, there's lost their V2 in their last units, they've called it. And that was a good game, that one, a good scrap. I enjoyed that, thoroughly challenging and difficult game. My opponent did very well. They're obviously a very skilled, quality player. So that game was a bit of back and forth. You know, I nearly messed it up with some of those attacks, but yeah, it was a good game. I'll go through the graphs and charts for you. There you are, look, my opponent was just slightly behind until these engagements started here. Looks like about 6.5 minutes, some proper combat started, and my opponent took heavier losses. They did recover nicely, but they were just behind. So, you know, that's just did them in. There's the earnings graph. That looks pretty even, except closer to the end after 10 minutes, my opponent is doing better for expansions because they were over here and everything, whereas I wasn't mining here at one point, and I also fell back from here. So yeah, I was doing bad for earnings compared to my opponent. But look at the infiltrations towards the end, and I needed the cash as well. I only had what, a grand or two. My opponent had a nice bit of cash, so it was like thievery. Took it. It was like probably a 4,000 steel and a 2,000 steel, something like that. There's the earnings graph, and look, there you go. It's often like that. When I use thieves for nice heavy infiltrations, it's often the final hammer blow that finishes your opponent. Quite often the case. Here's my finishing army. That looks like about 5 tanks, 2 engineers, some soldiers, about a company of infantry with an anti-tank brigade squad with them. I've got a 13,000 army value, not a lot. You know, one bad attack and I could lose that. And it could have been back to even. You know, my opponent had replaced their war factory, so, you know, you've got to be careful right up to the end. But I've lost 7 structures, my opponent's lost 19. I killed 295 of my opponent's units, my opponent killed 225 of mine. I destroyed 72,000 credits worth of my opponent's assets. My opponent destroyed 51,000 credits worth of mine. Let's have a look at support powers. I did build an airfield. I haven't got an aircraft, but obviously I've got paratroopers and spy plane counting down because I've got an airfield with Soviets. But there's a flame tower, rifle infantry and good old heavy tanks being produced. And economy, I've got 6 ore trucks left because I did suffer some damage. You know, I've hung on to my oil derrick. Where is it? Oh, no, I didn't. I lost this one at some point and then captured this one. When I fell back from here, I captured that on my way back. But I earned 100,000 credits. My opponent earned 97,000 credits, so my opponent did better for their earnings. It was just that infiltration towards the end. Those 2 infiltrations have overtaken my opponent's score. So it was very nice, that. Nice steal. And I've got over 8 grand because of that. I was at 27 actions per minute. My opponent was at 36 actions per minute. And there's the scores. 956 to me, 489 to my opponent. And there's all your basics, graphs, stats, charts, etc. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed the game. If you like what you saw, give us a sub and a like. And thank you very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves. Till next time, goodbye.
Battle control terminated.